You're listening to the Radcast, a top 25 worldwide business podcast. If it's radical, we cover it. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the latest edition of the Radcast. I'm Ryan Alford, your host. You know, we say if it's radical, we cover it. Well, this goes right at the heart of radical, if you ask me. I'm a social media junkie, obviously, by nature. And a certain someone has been like flooding my feeds the last, I don't know, a couple of years, maybe even, Chip. But Chip Leighton, the Leighton Show, TikTok fame. I think you started TikTok fame and then rolled over to Instagram fame. Is that right, Chip?
That is right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm psyched.
Yeah, man. Started hitting the algorithm on TikTok's great. You know, obviously they hit. I'm a 45-year-old man. We're probably somewhere in the same stratosphere. And so, they're dialing the algorithm in and you start popping up, your face over something. And I'm like, okay. And it's kind of the deadpan. And I'm like, this is that. And as soon as being a husband, father of four, things my wife says or things my wife get mad at me about, I forget what the first one was. I was like, this is gold. And hey, I mean, what are we at now? How many followers on TikTok?
TikTok, I got like 460,000, a couple 100,000 on Instagram now. It's been crazy. I mean, I just started this like for fun, and, thought I might be able to post some funny stuff, and had one viral thing hit and then another, and kind of built just organically from there. So it's obviously the stuff that I do is relatable, right? So other dads or husbands can just sort of see their own experiences in it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's back up for a minute. We'll get to maybe the day job, but talk to me. What inspired all of this? So TikTok's been blowing up. You've been doing it for about 2 years, right? Is that timeline right?
Yeah.
Or longer than that?
Yeah. I mean, I started in, basically 2 years ago, early, January of 21, I guess it was. My daughter and I got a couple of teenagers. We'll probably get into that, but my teenage daughter and I started using TikTok when it just became big. And, I thought it was a fun platform, and I was like, I bet I could post some funny stuff on there. And I tried some stuff, and I mean, for the first 6 months, everything I did was terrible. I mean, I think I had 17 followers after the first 6 months. And I was about to delete my account because I was like, I guess I was wrong. I don't think I have anything to say here. And I had I thought of one post and I made it and it went viral. And so it went from there. But really my purpose is just to, make people laugh, right? Because I think, every husband and wife or, parents have those moments that are just, you got to either laugh at them or handle them some other way. So I like to laugh at them. And yeah, it's been amazing to hear the reaction from people.
But the core started, the crazy, zany and ironic things, or, I'd stop short of saying stupid, but in the moment, they may not seem stupid. But when you hear you speak them, things that my daughter asked me. Well, what was the first bit? Was it?
Well, first one I did was around marriage, and it was it's tougher to on podcast, but it was just different visuals of have you ever been married? And it was the front end of a car scraped from hitting the garage, or a million Amazon boxes on the porch, or the empty gas tank gauge, or whatever stuff like that. And then I think the next one was text from my teenage daughter. She texts me mostly food related stuff, but she'll be like, make me pancakes, do it, stuff like that. But where it really, and so things were picking up, but then in the fall, right around Thanksgiving, I think of that year, I did this, things I've apologized to my wife series. And that really went crazy. And that's where I get a lot of comments oh my gosh, my wife gets on me for the same thing. Or I'll hear from wives that are oh, it kills me when my husband's just standing there in the kitchen. I'm trying to get in this drawer and he's standing right in front of it. It's basic stuff,
One of the more recent ones, just had me belly laughing. I was just it was the, not to sneeze or not to get sick. I should promise not to get sick if I'd been born, with perfect genes or something.
Oh yeah,
You're not allowed to get sick.
No, they don't like it. Well, it's the whole man cold thing. I mean, to be fair, we don't handle it as well as women do.
No, we don't. We don't.
I think my piece was sorry, I didn't talk to my parents when I was a baby to move me to a farm to develop a better immune system or whatever. it's like stuff that happens, but I just obviously try to make it sound as absurd as possible. So.
What's been the reaction like with your wife and daughter, like as this thing has like taken a life of its own? Have they embraced it? Do they get a kick out of it? I mean, what's the dynamic there?
Yeah, it's funny. It's probably different with each family member. Like my daughter is, she claims that she's like responsible for like 75% of my content or whatever. I dispute that number, but she's definitely got a piece of it or whatever. But so I think she gets a kick out of it. I mean, she's a teenager, so she's not going to like, give me too many compliments, but it's pretty funny when it started to blow up. Like her teachers started following me and stuff like that. So I got to, be in a parent teacher conference, and I would be like, oh, maybe this will show up on TikTok or whatever. So, but she likes to make fun of me generally. My wife, she's a great sport about it. I mean, I always like to say, very happily married, 23 years to my beautiful wife. I'm very lucky, and she's a good sport. Like she's actually been in a few of my posts, but it's not really her thing. But I found most spouses are like a pretty good check on the ego. Like she doesn't think I'm quite as funny as the average listener or viewer does. Like she'll be like, yeah, you're not really in the same league with the other dads I follow, but whatever,
I think reading between the lines, when I first saw you, I was like, okay, you were starting to get some traction on TikTok. I think when I first saw you, definitely weren't at 400 or 1,000. I mean, you were maybe 30 or 40,000. I mean, this was probably a few months after you got started, but I was immediately like, okay, not overly produced, and a guy that's very relatable, that's kind of, I don't know if deadpan, I don't know. My humor language is not enough, but deadpan, just kind of flat. I was like, this has got legs.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's definitely
did.
It's definitely not overly produced. I don't have enough time or energy to produce it. So I'm like, all right, what can I do where I'm just like staring at the camera with like a green screen bullet point list behind me or whatever. But anyway, so it's
an amazing case study to me. We're going to keep this pretty light, but I'm going to go down the business, side of, and like the power of social media. Like this is a really interesting case study. I mean, I work in social media and, with brands and stuff like that. I know you have a marketing background, sure drove some of your ideation and kind of understanding all these things, but it's amazing what social media is allowed, like worldwide opportunity. Like back in the day, the only way to get this kind of attention through media was if you're on a TV show. Yeah. And for, amateurs or non-stars, it might be, one of the talent shows or something. All right.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I feel exactly the same way. The way I talk about it is like, I know there's pros and cons to social media and everything, but you think about, when I was like younger, if I wanted to make people laugh, it was either I'd have to become like a stand-up comic as a career, try to get a job on like a, writing for a sitcom or whatever. You couldn't sit in your living room and with your phone reach, thousands or even millions of people just with an idea and based on whether it's engaging or not. So I think that's amazing that you think about how many more creative people now have a chance to like connect with others and what that does for the whole environment. So I think these platforms are amazing. I get they're not all good, but that's part of what drove me to it as well.
Tell me a good story, Chip. Talking with Chip Leighton, The Leighton Show. Go follow him on TikTok, Instagram, and everywhere you find your humor. But these days. But Chip, talk to me about like a good story. Maybe someone recognized you at the grocery store story, or fan DM'd you something interesting. Like, give us something juicy or fun that's come out of all this on kind of maybe the fan or awareness side.
Yeah, let's see. Well, one little nugget is my son's a freshman in college. He texts after things started to blow up like last fall with some media attention and stuff. He texts me. He's like, yeah, they found out about your TikTok down here. A couple random girls asked if you were my dad. I was like, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I take it as a good thing.
Yeah, I was like, hey, he's got a lot of followers,
Yeah, Leighton Show Jr. here or whatever. But no, what usually happens is, and like I'll walk in someplace and like someone will just kind of look at me for a few extra seconds. And for a while, I thought I was like imagining it actually. And then, you know, one time my wife's like, no, that woman that was in Panera was like staring at you. Like, but I remember we were at a restaurant waiting for a table once, and this really, you know, nice young couple comes up, and she's like, I'm sorry, I hate to bother you. I thought they were going to ask, like, do you need a reservation to sit at the bar or whatever? But she's like, do you make TikToks? Because I was just texting my mom that I'm in Maine now. I think I see your favorite TikToker here. We love you, whatever. And my wife's just like rolling her eyes, you know, like he's not that funny around the house. Trust me, you know, whatever. But
that's funny. What about on the media side? I know you've done, you know, some interviews, TV stations. What's been the biggest media appearance thus far?
Well, yeah. So what happened?
Other than the Radcast,
right
now.
Hey, still, might be it.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, you know what happened was, I think it was last September. Somebody texted me in the morning. They're like, "Hey, I saw you in the Daily Mail today," which is like a tabloid in the UK, right? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And it was a pickup of basically an article about I did a greatest hits compilation of things I've apologized to my wife for, and I don't know, some writer there picked it up and wrote an article, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then it had only been out for a few hours, but my wife was like, you know, it's got like 750 comments on it already. I was like, oh wow, maybe that'll, you know, some people see that. And then like the next day there was like another article, basically the same thing in the New York Post, and then I had people telling me like, oh, I heard your clips on the radio in Atlanta today. I'm like, what's going on? Like I hit some kind of feed that like radio stations use, and they would, you know, play clips. And so I got like, you know, some radio station interviews. I did
nice.
I did a morning show in Chicago, the TV morning show. Somebody was like, and then one night someone was like, I saw you on Fox News last night. I'm like, all right, I didn't see it or whatever. So it was like, some stuff like that. I mean, nothing. I haven't been on the Tonight Show or whatever, but it's been crazy. There's something about that, especially the things I've apologized to my wife for, that's like very simple and people kind of get it and relate. And in those interviews, I hear a lot of like that one I did in Chicago. The co-host was like, I do this piece around how I let my steak knife touch the plate for a fraction of a second, and you know it makes that noise. It drives my wife crazy. And he's like, is my wife watching right now? Because she rides me so hard for that. I feel vindicated, and you know, so it's pretty fun to talk to people about stuff. Because in social media, like you get all these comments, but they almost don't seem real, you know. And then so when you actually talk to somebody live, it's different.
That is the interesting, you know, balance with social media, that you kind of get, I don't know, desensitized a bit.
Yeah.
Especially the volume. Like you know, people listening, you know, talking with the Leighton show, like 400,000. Like think about, okay, going to an NFL stadium and watching a football game. And a full NFL stadium is what, like 60, like big stadium, 60, 70,000. There's certainly maybe more with the others. I went to Clemson where the full stadium's 85,000 people. And I have that picture. So if you're listening, have a picture of a full football stadium in your head, like packed to the gills, and then multiply it times 10 or 8. That's how many people are following Chip Leighton. Like it's a lot of people. Like we get desensitized to the numbers, but it's a lot of people that you're touching with this stuff, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't quite seem real. It's tough to, I make that same analogy. I'm trying to conceptualize it, like, because people are like, you're kind of like famous. I'm like, am I? I don't really even know. Like I don't quite know what it is. But then there are a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I see that guy's face on my
Insta
feed
famous.
But,
yes.
Yeah. But what happened was when I mentioned all that media coverage, like, which was this last fall. So I had been pretty big on TikTok for a long time. But my Instagram account really didn't have much. I don't know, it was like 10 or 20,000 people, which is something, but it wasn't like anything like TikTok. And that coverage kind of led to really rapid growth on Instagram. And it's felt very much more mainstream now because it's just, TikTok's great and there's a lot of people on it, but it isn't totally mainstream. And now I have a lot of people who are like, oh man, I'm just finding you and I'm binging all your content. And it actually feels like there's maybe more opportunity on Instagram. It's probably a better audience actually with the type of stuff I do. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Instagram's more, I don't know. There's been a lot of migration from Facebook to Instagram. So you've got kind of an older, I want to stop saying old, but older, that demographic, probably more closer to your and our demographic, than TikTok. Not that TikTok isn't mainstream now. Don't let me say that, because it is very mainstream and all ages are on it, but it still skews, 20s, for the most part.
Yeah.
So now you might start to pick up more of your natural audience. So Chip, $1 million question I think people ask. Are you monetizing? Are you building a business around this? Are you starting a comedy tour?
Right. I think the short answer is I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. So I got a day job. So this is just like, stuff I'm doing on the weekend or whatever. And there's, I do feel, the more times pass, the more I feel like, hey, there could be something bigger here. And so, you could envision other platforms this could go to. I want to start a podcast one of these days when I can find the time. You can envision this in, book form or whatever. So I am looking at those kinds of opportunities. I haven't done a whole lot of like, sponsored posts. I've tiptoed into that a little bit, but honestly, I feel like I've grown partially because I'm authentic. And so it's a little bit of a struggle for me to say, like, to be shown up in your feed, like, pitching different products or whatever, unless they're like a really good fit with me. So I'm still trying to figure out, like, I'm quite selective around that. I haven't done much of it, but that's something I'm wrestling with a little bit. And I'm open to your advice, by the way.
Yes. I have a couple of tips. One, I think you want to stay authentic. I don't think you would come off right, like just totally schlepping something, like, and I don't think that's what you want to do. But I do think, like, literally coffee cup with a brand on it, t-shirt, like subtle things, a hat. I don't know if you're a hat guy, but like, I think there's some branding, subtle things that you could do that with your audience. There's brands out there that would, that would buy into that. And so there's subtle things like that. One thing I would counsel you to do is social media is what I call rented land. It's not owned land. You're renting land there, and your own land is your website. And you own the website, and you need to be getting the data from all these people, because you're following, i.e. you need a name and email list, address, even great, because then, and all this sounds bad, but hey, people are listening to a business podcast, so we're not going to offend anyone, but like, to monetize your audience, it might come offline, not online. And when I say, like, it might be a digital medium, email marketing, but you need to translate, as much of that 440 plus. What are you at on Instagram?
It's like 220. Yeah, so I'm getting close to 700.
So 700,000. You need to get as high a percentage of that as possible into true name and email. For you.
Yeah, interesting.
So, do you have like the LeightonShow.com?
I do. I haven't launched it yet, but I've got the URL.
Yeah. And I mean, that's fine. I mean, crawl, walk, run. But I would get that up, and you just start capturing people's, asking, or even you can ask them in their DMs, like, hey, how'd you do the mailing list? Start just a really, newsletter, or like weekly, or hell, bi-weekly, it doesn't have to be, but just something that's a little, that humor, delivered right to their mailbox, so to speak. And because you want to nurture that audience. You build every company now, every entity is about building a community. And I think that you have a real opportunity with your approach to truly build that community, that when you do want to sell something, you want them to buy a book, you want them to come to your show. They want, like, you've got a natural mechanism and lever beyond just posting on Instagram and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this. And yeah, of course you'll do that. And of course you'll run ads behind it if it's something of note, but you need to own the land, not rent it. You've leveraged these platforms to build your audience, but now you need to have that audience at your availability, in a good way. Like, you want to nurture that community. You want to add more value to them. You want them to buy an amazing book that you write. So it's not just like making the end all dollar on them. But again, look, you're an entertainer. You get paid for, being entertaining and creating a niche. And, nobody gets mad at Nike for making shoes.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting take, and I totally agree with you about the whole rented space on social media. I was actually reminded of it last week because I posted something on Instagram that they actually flagged it as like a community guidelines violation. It was just like whatever, it had a word in it, and I got that overturned. But like I didn't actually file an appeal on it for like 3 or 4 days, and they basically stopped serving me to anyone who didn't follow me, and it was like, which means that you have no more growth basically. And I was like, oh, maybe that's it for me on Instagram. Like if I kick that,
it was on
get that
Instagram?
reversed. Yeah. But then they reversed it like a couple days ago, and now I'm like back to, growing with non-followers. So it's like, but it's a good reminder, like, hey, they could shut down your account tomorrow and you got no way to reach those people.
Did you got actually notification that said we're not showing your content?
No, but I got a notification that said, hey, we flagged this for community guidelines violation. If you want to appeal it, whatever. And I didn't do anything, but then like I noticed, because they show you your numbers of like how many views you're getting from followers and non-followers, and it was
just
like
dropped off. Like
typically like 70% of my views are from non-followers, and so like that part of the bar chart just went away. And I was like, at first I didn't know if it was even related, but obviously it was, because once I got restored, it went back to normal. But whatever, the government could abolish TikTok tomorrow or whatever. So you're right. I mean,
exactly.
Who knows?
That's why you want to get that audience off of there.
Right,
like,
right.
Even just get a landing page up. Shoot, I'll get a shameless plug for lead pages. Like lead page, you could have a landing page up in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, you want to stay in the know about everything, the Leighton Show.
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing I like
email.
about podcasting is it is more owned, right? Like it's not part of someone else's platform. You could reach, obviously you connect through other platforms, but it's, and I think my content would actually be really good for podcasts, because I could have other parents and, husband and wives on, and I think it'd be pretty engaging actually. But.
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, do you see yourself ever on a stage?
Not really. I mean, I definitely, like, just lifestyle wise, I don't see myself like going on tour, like, and doing, playing the clubs. But like, I have had people tell me, and I do sort of wonder, like, I have had like comedians tell me, like, your stuff would be really good live, and I could sort of picture it, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to figure this all out.
Comedy, and you would totally translate. I mean, you'd need to, obviously you would, but like, get it specific to that medium and like dialing it in for that 20-minute 30-minute set, whatever that is, but like totally would translate.
Yeah. Having said that, if anybody from Netflix is listening, I'm willing to sit down and take a meeting.
They might be. Don't forget the 15% royalties here from the old Radcast for that million.
I didn't sign anything.
Kidding. So Leighton, if you had to pick, like, if you're like, okay, I really want to write a book, or we kind of started down that a little bit, but like, where do you want it to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's all. I mean, there's a lot of places that could go. I think, and mostly it's just a time issue right now, and I think I do think I have some people I've talked to, and I think I agree with this. Have kind of said, hey, a book is a good first step, because that kind of builds the platform. You can use that as an entryway to other things. I mean, I do think there's potentially a swing for the fences here somewhere down the road around TV. I'm sure that's a long shot, but you think about some of the relatable comedy that's kind of moved from either the clubs or online to TV. But at the end of the day, I feel like as long as you're growing an engaged audience and you're delivering quality content, like, opportunities will be there. And so I'm still trying to figure it out.
What's been the mechanism? So someone's listening and, they've hesitated to get more out there on social media. Like, how did you kind of get yourself out there? And then what's been like any strategies, or like, do you have certain days and times like you shoot? Like, what did you set up as kind of that consistency to kind of to push yourself to do it, and then ultimately to consistently keep doing it?
Yeah. I mean, I keep a note on my phone as stuff happens, like in my everyday life. I'm writing stuff down. My daughter's always making fun of me. She's like, not everything is content or whatever. But I'm like, well, don't write it down. It's definitely not content. And
that could be content right there.
And I'll try to take some time, some evening or on the weekend, to just like look through my list and try to come up with a few things I can easily record. And I try to get like 2 or 3 things up a week, but I'm like barely struggling to do that. And you hear other experts who are saying like, oh, you got to be posting every day, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. That'll never be me. Although I have certainly found that focusing on quality over quantity has worked for me, and I think that's true too. Like if you think about TikTok, like a good post for me would do like 100,000 views maybe, which is amazing, right? But like a great post will do like 3 million, right? And so it's like I'd rather have one great post than like 10 good ones, and that's going to grow your follower base more. And so, I mean, you can't take that too far and like only be posting once every few weeks or whatever. But so I don't know. That's kind of
something completely blown up on an Instagram and not on TikTok, or vice versa.
Yeah. So I mean, again, like for the first year I did it, like things were blowing up on TikTok. I didn't really have any traction on Instagram. It's kind of the opposite now, to be honest with you. Like stuff I post is, even though my follower base isn't yet as big on Instagram, like something big I'll post will do, whatever, more than 1 million views on Instagram. It might only do 100,000 on TikTok. And I don't quite understand the full dynamics, other than the fact that I'm newer to people on Instagram. And again, people are coming in and they're seeing a catalog of 1.5 years of pretty good work, I think. Right. And so they're like, oh man, I'm binging your stuff. And there's just higher engagement there for me right now. And I think part of that's just a newer audience. Like we were talking about before, maybe it's demographically a better fit. Maybe people on TikTok are a little tired of my shtick. I don't know. I mean, I'm still doing fine there, but
Are you on YouTube?
Yeah, I do. But I haven't gotten any traction there. I posted a bunch of shorts, and I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know what you do.
It's a whole machine. It's yeah. Like if you don't have time, then very little time, then stick to what's working.
Yeah,
because YouTube's just a beast. Like just take, like, we've been on these platforms with our stuff, and our show's like all over the map. Like we're top 25 in like 30 countries now.
Yeah, amazing.
But we cannot break the mold on YouTube. Like we have like 5,000 subscribers, but like comparative to everything else, it's like, and I have guys that know it, and we have, a team, but we don't even have time to like almost crack the code fully.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
YouTube.
Yeah.
It's an SEO thing, and it's like there's tricks and algorithms and everything else like that, so I don't know. I guess if I had a female body and was attractive, it might, everything's easier.
Probably wouldn't hurt. Yeah.
That's why it's fascinating that it doesn't all have to be salacious content, because that was the joke. Like I had a guy on that was a big Instagram like growth guy. And I was like, what's the best way to break through? He's like, be a woman and get in a bikini. I'm like, well, okay, it's just not going to work for me.
Yeah, I heard that episode actually. I remember that.
Yeah, but cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I love your approach. Obviously, being a dad and a father, it's hits very close to home, and having a wife that's she's an administrator now, but was a school teacher, for a long time, but now she's administrator. So she's very type A. And so, I'm organized, but to her, I'm, the biggest slob ever. And so like, the things in the kitchen, all that, I'm just like, oh my God, so good. So good. Tell me I know I've hit it a few times, but let's tell everybody that's listening how to keep up with you, and where they might be able to, keep up with your book or something.
Yeah. So it's
to be written.
The Leighton Show. So it's Leighton. So biggest presence is on TikTok and Instagram. And it may be someday coming soon, theLeightonShow.com. Not there yet, but I also, this is part of the ridiculousness of this. Like I'm also on Cameo. Like I'll do, like wives will pay me to like create a video of like telling their husband things they should apologize for or whatever. But it's like, that's actually really fun. And it's at some point in this journey, or like early on, I just decided, I'm going to lean in and just see what happens here. It's default to saying yes. And that was one of those times where I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going on Cameo. I'm not like a celebrity. But then I was like, you know what? I could do my own spin on it. And it's actually been really fun.
Yes. Last tip would be to lean into like whatever your bits are, like, I mean, I'll use a really bad example, but like me being a podcaster, I have a podcast mic I use every time. So obviously that's a really easy opportunity for some kind of direct, but like anything that's part of your skits, like, I don't know, you write on, this certain type of paper, whatever, I'd contact the paper company. Like if there's stuff that it's like a consistent thing, I'd reach out to those brands that naturally align, that you almost don't have to do anything, that it's just part of it, whatever that might be. a pen, or like, I know there's certain things, you have a number of different bits now, but I think, lean into those things. But
yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on though, Chip.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's it's fun to talk, and you gave me some great ideas too.
Hey, let's stay in touch. I'll give you more. My advice is free. Anyway, hey guys, go follow the Leighton Show. It'll make you smile. There's too much seriousness bullshit going on in the world today. We need more Chip Leightons out there to break the humor, break the mold, and put a smile on our face. I really appreciate Chip coming on. You know where to find us. We're at the radcast.com. Search for The Leighton Show. You'll find all the highlight clips and the full episode from today. I'm at Ryan Alford on all the platforms. Verified on TikTok, verified on Instagram. I'm my boy, Chip Leighton. We'll see you next time on the Radcast.
To listen or watch full episodes, visit us on the web at theradcast.com or follow us on social media at our Instagram account, the.rad.cast, or at Ryan Alford. Stay radical.